Hello and thanks for joining us for our mid-morning edition of Arirang News. I'm Mark Broom. Let's dive straight into the day's headlines. Back from the edge of the cliff, US President Donald Trump says Iran is stepping back after its revenge missile attacks on Iraqi air bases. Trump also demands other world leaders walk away from the 2015 Iran nuclear deal. In his first public appearance since smuggling himself out of Japan, Carlos Ghosn, the former CEO of Nissan, frames himself as the victim of Japan's inhumane justice system and a corporate overthrow. Plus, health authorities on alert. South Korea reports its first suspected case of a mysterious pneumonia-like illness that's been spreading in China. Now, for a while, it seemed war might be a certainty, but the US and Iran now appear willing to de-escalate after several days of rising tensions. Talking to the nation from the White House on Wednesday, President Trump said Iran will never have a nuclear weapon on his watch and vowed even tougher sanctions on the Iranian regime. Our Hong Yu has more on President Trump's first remarks after Iran's revenge strike on Iraqi air bases housing American troops.
President Trump is stepping back from an escalating crisis with Iran over his administration's drone killing of top Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. Making his first remarks on Wednesday after the Iranian strikes on Iraqi air bases the night before, Trump indicated there will be no military response, as no Americans were hurt in the Iranian missile attack. Instead, he announced new sanctions on Tehran.
As we continue to evaluate options in response to Iranian aggression, the United States will immediately impose additional punishing economic sanctions on the Iranian regime. These powerful sanctions will remain until Iran changes its behavior.
He said Iran appears to be standing down and called on other nations to recognize that Tehran must end its nuclear ambitions.
Iran must abandon its nuclear ambitions and end its support for terrorism. The time has come for the United Kingdom, Germany, France, Russia, and China to recognize this reality. They must now break away from the remnants of the Iran deal, or JCPOA. And we must all work together toward making a deal with Iran that makes the world a safer and more peaceful place.
President Trump also called on NATO to become much more involved in the Middle East process. Facing re-election in November, President Trump seized the opportunity to stress that he is the president who will stop the U.S. engaging in endless war and vowed that Iran will never be allowed to develop a nuclear weapon on his watch. Hong Yu, Arirang News.
Satellite images have been released showing the damage caused by the Iranian missile strike on the al-Asad air base in Iraq. The images taken by private Earth imaging company Planet Labs shows damage to 5 facilities on the base. Among the facilities were aircraft hangars turned into rubble after being hit by ballistic missiles. Some of the images show missiles also landed on the base's runway. Iraq says 17 missiles hit the airbase. US Defense Secretary Mark Esper says the missiles fell on facilities and parking lots and damaged a helicopter. Now, in retaliation for the killing of Iran's most powerful military commander late last week, Iran decided to fire several ballistic missiles at those US air bases in Iraq. The bases hit were both visited by President Trump and Vice President Mike Pence during the past couple of years. Our Kim Hyo-sun tells us more about those air bases that were in Tehran's crosshairs.
Iran struck back at the U.S. early Wednesday for killing its most powerful military commander, firing a dozen ballistic missiles at the al-Asad and Erbil bases in Iraq, where American troops are housed. Iran's supreme leader said in a speech following the attacks that the Americans have received a slap in the face. The al-Asad base, one of the bases hit by the attack, was where President Trump made a surprise visit in December 2018. It was Trump's first visit to a conflict zone and came nearly 2 years into his presidency.
We came to al-Asad to share our eternal gratitude for everything you do to keep America safe, strong, and free.
U.S. Vice President Mike Pence has also visited al-Asad, which houses about 1,500 U.S. and coalition forces. In November last year, Pence also paid an unannounced visit to the air base near Erbil in northern Iraq, which was also targeted by Iran. As of late 2019, about 6,000 American troops are deployed in Iraq, a fraction of the 150,000 military personnel who served during Operation Iraqi Freedom, which lasted from 2003 to 2011. As Delta Force commandos stationed at the Erbil base led the operation which killed the leader of the Islamic State terror group in October last year, the base is considered crucial in America's fight against ISIS. South Korea's Zaitun Division was also dispatched to Erbil base from 2004 to 2008 for peacebuilding and reconstruction missions. Kim Yun-san, Arirang News.
Now, in other news, it's been exactly 28 years since the first so-called Wednesday rally took place, calling for a sincere apology from Japan for its cruel system of sexual slavery before and during World War II. Crowds have gathered outside the now former Japanese embassy in Seoul, come snow, rain, hail or shine, every Wednesday without fail. On this Wednesday, hundreds again formed a group around the compound to continue their demand for an apology from Tokyo and legal compensation for the now very elderly victims. Lee Seung-jae has this report.
On January 8, 1992, the first rally took place demanding an apology from Japan over its wartime sex slavery, with testimony from former sex slavery victim Kim Ok-sun. This rally, which would become a weekly fixture, quickly brought international attention to the victims' suffering and their unwavering fight for justice.
How many of our people know about the history of being enslaved by Japanese soldiers? Are we to be left ruthlessly trampled and bloody in a withered past?
Just like it has for 28 years, hundreds gathered outside the former Japanese embassy compound in Seoul to continue pressing Tokyo for a sincere apology and legal compensation for its wartime atrocities. However, according to one of the victims, she hopes she doesn't have to see a 29th anniversary of the rally.
There's a limit to lying. Stop it. It's been revealed that you've been lying, so just stop it.
Many young students took part and promised to keep coming back.
It's surprising that this rally started before I was born. I'm sorry I came so late. I will be back.
To mark the anniversary, women's rights groups in Germany, Australia, and China issued a joint statement, while 7 cities in the U.S. and Japan held their own rallies to mark the anniversary. The 28-year struggle has long stood for peace, reunification, and human rights, and has support across all generations in South Korea. After 1,421 rallies, there are now just 20 survivors of Japan's wartime sexual slavery in South Korea, and their message remains clear.
Tell the Japanese government. Tell Japan to apologize to us before we all die. Do you understand, Ambassador?
Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
South Korea has reported its first suspected case of a mysterious pneumonia-like illness that's been spreading in China. According to the Korea Centers for Disease Control and Prevention on Wednesday, a 36-year-old Chinese woman who had visited the Chinese city of Wuhan last month showed symptoms of the illness. The patient has been isolated and is currently undergoing treatment after checking into a local hospital in Dongtan, some 50 kilometers south of Seoul. Beijing says the pneumonia-like illness does not seem to be transmittable between people.
Former Nissan chairman Carlos Ghosn said he fled Japan to, quote, clear his name. He blasted Japan's legal systems, calling it part of a plot to take him down as the chief of one of the world's most powerful auto giant. Speaking to reporters in Beirut on Wednesday, Ghosn claimed his innocence. He said he should never have been arrested in the first place, denying charges of financial misconduct. He also blamed Japanese legal authorities for lacking, quote, the most basic principles of humanity. Ghosn said he had to endure a harsh time in solitary confinement and faced longer questioning without his lawyers or any access to his family.
I did not escape justice. I fled injustice and persecution, political persecution. Having endured more than 400 days of inhumane treatment in a system designed to break me and unwilling to provide me even minimal justice, I was left with no other choice but to protect myself and my family.
Japanese legal authorities were quick to respond. Take a look.
Ghosn has been propagating both within Japan and internationally false information on Japan's legal system. This is absolutely intolerable. Japan's criminal justice system sets out appropriate procedures and is administered properly to clarify the truth in cases while guaranteeing basic individual human rights.
The minister added that Ghosn left the country, quote, illegally by unjust methods, and if he had anything to say, he should speak in front of the Japanese court. The former Nissan chairman secretly fled to Lebanon last month while he was out on bail in Japan. He was due to go to trial in April on charges of underreporting his income and breach of trust. Prince Harry and his wife Meghan have surprised the world by announcing that they are stepping back as senior members of the British royal family. They said in a statement Wednesday that they've decided to become financially independent and set up a charity. While pledging full support for the Queen, the couple said they will balance their time between the UK and North America. The couple has long struggled with intense media intrusion, criticizing journalists for prodding around in their private life. In October, Harry also admitted disagreements with his brother, Prince William. Apple reportedly earned up to $50 billion through its App Store last year. The growth is slowing, according to analysis by CNBC. The tech giant said on Wednesday that it has paid $155 billion to developers since 2008, an increase from $120 billion disclosed last January. CNBC analyzed that since Apple paid out $35 billion to developers in 2019, the company's App Store had total sales of up to $50 billion. Given the assumption Apple pays 70% of its app sales to developers. It added Apple has momentum in its service business and subscription content thanks to services like Apple Music and Apple TV+.
So let's continue our coverage of the 2020 Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. Today, we're going to stay with the theme of AI-powered products. And it turns out that watchers say reality might not be quite what it is today in the future. They say fake may actually be the new trend at CES 2020. Kim Jae-hee explains.
There's plenty to grab people's attention at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas this year, but some of the most captivating products have one thing in common. They might all just be fake. After weeks of anticipation on social media, artificial humans were finally revealed by Samsung's Star Labs subsidiary. The so-called Neon project is a lineup of computer-generated avatars called Natasha, Frank, and Hannah. The fake people look and behave like real people, even showing emotions, and they can respond to their owners in a matter of milliseconds. Powered by artificial intelligence, they are expected to be commercialized in the future, becoming teachers, flight attendants, chefs, and even doctors. There was also a buzz around fake pork. Impossible Foods officially launched its plant-based pork products on Monday on the sidelines of the CES.
Our mission is to completely replace animals in the global food system. We've been serious about that from day one. And of course, you're not going to achieve that mission without taking on pork.
Attendees got to taste the plant-based pork sandwiches and tacos themselves. The meatless pork and sausages mimic the taste and texture of meat. Meanwhile, the world's leading tech companies are tackling user privacy concerns. Google announced that it has added 2 new voice commands, and Facebook has updated its privacy checkup tool to help users better upgrade their account security. But critics say this falls short of achieving true privacy. The Washington Post has even gone as far as calling it fake privacy, saying the companies may just be using fear to sell their security gadgets and are only integrating surveillance into everyday things. Kim Jae-hee, Arirang News.
So, as you can see there really are some amazing things to check out at this year's Consumer Electronics Show. Technologies that'll connect all kinds of devices throughout the home, bringing AI into our everyday lives. Our Oh Soo-young, who is lucky enough to be on assignment in Las Vegas for us, gets us better acquainted with the products on display.
This may look like a softball, but it's actually a robot that follows you around, managing home security, controlling smart devices, and of course keeping you entertained. Samsung's companion robot Bolly is one of the most eye-catching items at the annual Consumer Electronics Show, which opened Tuesday in Las Vegas.
This small robot comes with artificial intelligence features, a built-in camera and a mobile interface, and one day it could possibly help you with everything and anything around the house.
Bolly could order your robot vacuum to clean up the mess in the kitchen, help you check on your pets while at work, and alert emergency services if you've fallen down. The robot is a key example of how daily life will become smarter, faster, and even more connected, backed by artificial intelligence and 5G. Other robotic helpers under the spotlight at CES include machines that take your order and cook your meal, and robots that wash the dishes with sleek movements once you're done.
The big change we're going to see in 2020 is proactive assistance. So today, you speak to your smart speaker and say, turn on the lights or play some music for me. But in the next couple of months even, you're going to see proactive devices that say, hey, I see you forgot to turn on your alarm. Hey, I noticed that you pulled into the house and you haven't turned the lights on. Little things like that are going to make assistance a lot more useful for us, and that's going to happen really quickly.
Smart homes are set to become the hub of connectivity between all consumer gadgets. Take, for instance, an AI-powered fridge that identifies the food inside it and recommends recipes before it preheats the oven for you. Samsung and LG state-of-the-art TVs also come with AI processor chips, enhancing audio and video quality to match your surroundings. They also connect with lifestyle solutions like digital healthcare, fitness, and entertainment. This vision of daily life in the future has been dubbed as the intelligence of things.
The intelligence of things bears testimony to the fact that artificial intelligence is really permeating every facet of our commerce and our culture. Now commerce is interesting because this is how we grow our economies and create business opportunities. Culture is even more interesting because we're talking about shifts in human behavior. So that'll be interesting to watch over the next 10 years, how our culture changes as a result of AI playing a larger and larger role in day-to-day life for us humans.
The 4-day convention will allow a sneak peek into this future, where technology and connectivity will no longer be confined to a smartphone or a device, but exist all around us. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News, Las Vegas.
Now, we're about a week into 2020, and there's no denying that the biggest international sporting event on the calendar this year is the 2020 Tokyo Summer Olympics. The world will be transfixed to their TVs during the month of July for the global celebration of sport that only comes around every 4 years in terms of the Summer Olympics, and it promises to be bigger and better than ever with loads of new events. But that's not all for sports fans in 2020. Other events include the Euro 2020 football tournament and an international table tennis competition that's going to be held right here in Korea in the southern port city of Busan. Lee Min-sun with the details.
The standout sporting event of the year is the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. This year's Summer Olympics takes place from July 24th to August 9th in Tokyo, Japan. Starting this year, baseball and softball are back on the Olympic stage as official events after a 12-year absence. There are also some new additions. Skateboarding, sports climbing, and surfing will make their Olympic debut, along with the Japanese martial art karate, which will join judo, taekwondo, and wrestling. That makes a total of 33 events for athletes to compete in, and South Korea is aiming for at least 10 gold medals and a top 10 ranking in Tokyo. There's plenty for soccer fans to look out for in 2020. The UEFA Champions League round of 16 will begin in February, and the final takes place at the end of May in Istanbul. 손흥민's Tottenham Hotspur and 이강인's Valencia FC look to advance to the quarterfinals. And Euro 2020 will kick off in June. The tournament will be played across Europe with the final in London. During the same period, Copa America, South America's soccer championship, will be jointly hosted by Argentina and Colombia for the first time. South Korea will also be hosting some international sports competitions. Starting on March 22nd, the southern port city of Busan will host the World Team Table Tennis Championships, the first time the event will be held in the country. And in February and March respectively, Seoul will host the Four-Continent Figure Skating Championships and the World Short Track Speed Skating Championships. 이민선, 아리랑 뉴스.
Good morning. Temperature-wise, we've seen some ups and downs this week, and on this Thursday, we are seeing the mercury nearing seasonal norms, but it's quite bearable. What we cannot really bear is this toxic dust. Despite some colder air, those of us in the central region will need a face mask today. We are dealing with high levels of ultra-fine dust. In fact, the 충청북도 and 경기도 provinces are forecast to suffer from dusty conditions all day today. Afternoon highs will be a couple notches lower than yesterday, again hovering near the season norms. Seoul topping out at 3 degrees. Jeju will get up to 8 degrees Celsius this afternoon, and mostly sunny skies will dominate most regions. Now, the weather looks promising for next few days. No extreme cold snaps or precipitation. But unfortunately, the fine dust could stick around. Meanwhile, rain is in the forecast on Jeju Island this weekend. That's Korea for you, and here's the international weather for views around the world.
Well, that's all the news and weather we have for now on this Thursday morning here in Seoul. Don't forget to stay tuned to Arirang TV. Plenty more coming up, including our next newscast. That's at noon Korea time with our very own Lee Ji-yoon. So until then, goodbye.